want to make sure also that I reiterate that part of our difficulty is going to be making absolutely certain we get the message clear to parents. Our school ends next Wednesday, and so hopefully, we've been told by the state that there's an electronic access online for parents to access their student data. We're going to be sending out a letter that has a specific code for parents to use to get that information. We're also going to mail the information when we get the hard paper copies to parents. So we just want to have parents on alert that hopefully by next week, if there's no further delay from the state level, they should be able to access their individual students' information. With that, I'll just field some questions. John Klein is here on purpose because John's had to do an awful lot of hand work because we were all absolutely on pins and needles trying to figure out what the data would look like. We don't even have all of our teachers at this point able to access all of that information because we're dealing with really just what the state has sent us. We don't have all the documents we normally have. But having said that, any questions that you might have?
Wendy, either you or Mark or anyone else, is there anything that you might attribute to these wide-ranging improvements other than, boatloads of work on behalf of the students and the teachers? I mean, is there anything else that you might think played a role?
I think that one of the things that makes this even a better story, and I think, keep in mind what Mr. GiaQuinta said, we're an urban district and we're not pleased that every student in our district has not achieved the score that we want them to achieve or the level of improvement that we want. But I think that for the first time, the entire system has improved, which for me as a superintendent means you can't expect for teachers and for parents and for students or for anyone in the district to do what they need to do if the entire system doesn't support that. Richard Lane and the Wallace Foundation would often say, you can put a good person in a bad system, the system wins every time. We have to be absolutely responsible, the board and the administration, for providing teachers and students the proper support to be able to focus on what they need to focus on. And this is even more remarkable because as we've changed and we're trying to get the lead school staff and all of the things we're doing because of the budget cuts, the one thing we kept consistent all year was the message is the message. Classroom instruction is it. The support for classroom instruction is everybody's job in the district, including the board's job. All of us were focused on what is it that will absolutely increase student achievement. If you recall a couple of years ago, we changed all of our reading programs and focused into having one model. We gave coaches and interventionists to schools. We stopped doing a little bit of everything. That's one of the advantages. When you have no money, you have to focus on what really is the issue and what really is the process that's going to get the best results. So I think that it's no one thing. I think the other part is we have become masters at analyzing data. We're not afraid of it. We're not afraid when it doesn't look good. When we do see some increases, there are principals tearing these numbers apart right now, down to the student, and they're upset because they don't have all the data yet. And I think that single-minded focus on doing the right thing by every child, it wasn't that we weren't doing that before. It's almost like everybody rowing in the same direction at the same time. That really is the conversation we've been having for 4 years. I mean, and so it's not, I don't think it's anything magical. I cannot tell you one single thing, but I would almost guarantee you, if you go talk to an elementary teacher in 3rd grade, they can tell you. If you go talk to a principal, they can tell you why the scores are what they are. They can tell you why they didn't achieve in certain areas. And I think that's more important than anything we can say today. That the people who actually are in the classroom can give you a better explanation as to why these scores are where they are. And more than that, they can also tell you what they still need to work on. And I think that's the most important part about this whole conversation.
Wendy, can I give a board perspective on that? And that is this. We understand that if we talk about academic achievement 24/7, it doesn't really make for a very exciting newscast that night because we talked about it the day before. And so we understand and we really don't take as much offense as people think we might over some of the, I'm going to call them sideshow issues that exist in our district. But you would be so surprised the day the headline screams out Elmhurst Group files lawsuit, or GiaQuinta's office rocker on a blog or something like that. But that very day, we've been in here talking about academic achievement again and what we can do to better support our teachers, or what we do to better motivate what's going on in our high schools, and how to make this lead school thing work. And then you go home, and a lot of times there's a real disconnect between what we see or what's being talked about in the coffee shop. We're not talking about it. I mean, no offense, but if we're going to ask our teachers to remain focused, we have to remain focused. And I really have to credit Dr. Robinson. I won't mention the name, but I mean, just last week, our PIO was treated horribly over the phone by a news director over an issue that they thought we spent hours talking about. And we didn't talk about it at all. And so, you know, I think there's been a lot of focus in this district, and I think that we should give credit to the people who are usually criticized. Let's give a little credit to the parents who are beginning to understand the importance of being involved in their children's lives. Let's give some credit to the community who is beginning to come together behind all these wonderful programs to help students and to pull them up. You know, let's look community-wide and say we've got a long way to go, but maybe something's working here in Fort Wayne. Because I got to tell you something. In Washington, D.C., the Department of Education, they think something's working here in Fort Wayne. And so, you know, they notice when a district like ours exceeds the state average in graduation rate. They see that stuff, and it means something to them. So let's maybe look to some of these groups who take a traditional beating and give them a good pat on the back, and tell them you're not there yet either, because there's somebody out there who isn't reading to their child yet or talking to their 2- or 3-year-old. And while we don't have the money Jeffrey Canada has in the Harlem Project, and we don't have his luxury of having people sign contracts, and if they break the contract, they're out. We're just as caring and just as dedicated, and I would offer just as focused.